Good evening and welcome to Artsounds, a program of conversations with creative people. I'm Michael Foster, and in the background is the prelude to a brand new CD from regional pianist and composer Catherine Marie Charlton. She calls it Riverflow Sanctuary, and Catherine is my guest tonight. Good evening and welcome to Artsounds.
Hi, thanks for having me back.
You've been very busy lately.
I have.
You've had a reissue of the original Riverflow, is that right?
River Dawn.
River Dawn.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a continuous CD of your improvisations, is that correct?
Yeah, it was a 60-minute performance of one piece that was released in 2001, and then I did a 10th anniversary edition last year.
And we'll come back and talk about that more, because apparently it's gotten a lot of good response in its reissue. But is Riverflow related to that at all?
Yes, I'm definitely calling it the sequel to River Dawn. It's also a 60-minute improvisation. I recorded it in one take in the evening upstairs, in my piano studio while my family was upstairs sleeping.
Yes, and as we look at the toddler across the room here in the studios, I bet you he wouldn't have added much if he hadn't been so asleep.
Probably not.
Probably not. He's being very good right now. Kind of bewildered looking. First of all, what I've noticed that's different about this versus River Dawn is that you have broken it up into sections and banned it in sections, which you didn't do with River Dawn. So that it can be played as bits and pieces, which we have done, or as a continuous piece. That's what made you decide to do that after the other way?
Well, actually, the original River Dawn was put into separate tracks because I had done a radio campaign with that, and I wanted broadcasters to be able to play individual sections of it, as well as for my own personal preference. I liked individual sections in the piece and wanted to be able to fast forward to them quickly. But when I did the re-release of River Dawn, I decided to put it back into its original 60-minute version, so it's just one track. On River Flow, I also did the tracks again so that broadcasters would be able to play sections. But River Flow is different in that the improvisation evolved into having distinct, unique sounds within the improv. So I think even though one melody goes throughout and it's the same key and the same mood and feel, there are sections with their own unique sort of stamp on them. And I wanted to be able to give different names to those sections.
And I'm assuming, as these things usually go, you named them after you
I did
recorded.
Indeed name them after the fact, yes.
Now, I asked you this question, I know, the last time you were here, but I'm still intrigued by the idea of anyone sitting down at the piano. I assume you decided 60 minutes ahead of time, or maybe not, and just started playing. And I know it's not that simple. I understand it's not that simple. And so tell me what went on before you actually sat down to the piano with the microphones on.
Well,
and I don't mean right immediately before, not necessarily. I mean, how did you prepare for this?
Well, I prepare by just playing lots of different repertoire and getting lots of different music in my fingers, improvising short pieces on my own. And it's interesting because after River Dawn had so much success early on, I've waited 12 years for something to come to me that I could also play that extended piece. I've tried, and try being the bad word, tried many times to create the next River Dawn, I guess, was always in my mind. And nothing really was something that could flow so easily out of my fingers. I think the emotional prep is what I needed. I had my second child this past year, and I think the process that I went through in preparing for her birth, and then the process that I went through of spending all of my time with a newborn again just put me in the emotional state I needed to be open for the music to flow forth. And River Flow, a week or two before I recorded the final take, I was listening to some improvisations of mine from the year before that I had recorded, and one of them I had labeled folky D major, and I believe that it was in the key of D, and then it had sort of a folk song sound to it, and I turned that off, and that was in my head. I don't think it was the same melody that ended up being River Flow, but I think I had the mood in my head, and I sat down and played at the piano, and I had a 58-minute take, and I was so excited. I thought, oh my gosh, this is it. Now that first take had a couple of 10-minute sections where it veered off the mood a little bit more than I wanted. So a few days later I did the second take, which is the one on the album, and it's the one that I've loved. I did do one third take a few days later, but by that point I was so excited that I had new music that third take I was a little too antsy. There's a little too much tension in the third take that I didn't like.
So it works better when you're just letting it go and not. So it seems
Absolutely.
Like thinking
if
about
I
it.
try,
I mean,
or if I think about it, then it doesn't serve the music well.
Well, first of all, I want to say it's nice to know that you tried this several times after the first success and didn't have. I mean, it's not very comforting to think that you could sit down and do this every time you wanted to. I'm glad to know that you're human.